What if the secret to building habits that stick isn't more willpower, isn't more structure, isn't some secret formula, but actually more joy? We're going to dive in at the Mind Lab today and talk about how joy can be used as fuel to build habits that stick with you and have some fun along the way. So, come on in. I am so glad you're here. Thanks for taking your time and attention and coming into the Mind Lab. If you haven't met me, my name is Carrie Richard. I'm a mindset coach and I help people make space, enjoy the ride. And one of my passions is to really help people understand how our brain works so we can work with it to really have a joyful, productive, impactful life. So let's get going. We are going to talk about the how using joy as fuel to make habits that stick. So before we get into habits, I want to step back for 1 minute, maybe a minute and 10 seconds, and we're going to talk about goals because we create habits to move towards goals. So just a brief, have you ever thought about how you structure your goals, how you talk about your goals? There are some specifics about goals that can really help them to be the destination for this habit. And when this is clear, the habit can really become clear. This also can be used as a trick with our brain to help us be motivated. Okay, so when you have goals, I don't know if you write them down. I would suggest it. If you have them where you can see it, another suggestion. But whatever your goals are, targets, whatever you want to call them, there's a design to goals, or there can be. The question you can ask yourself, there's 3 questions. Is it clear? Do you really know what you're saying, what you want to get? Is it specific? Because when we have vagueness, it's difficult for us to tie the habit and the goal together. Okay, so specific. And the other piece of specificity moves into the 3rd question. It's like a check on specificity is, are you able to know when you've succeeded? Is it specific enough so that you can say, oh my gosh, I met that goal? So those are the 3 things about goals. And one last thing. If you have not done this, if you have goals, ask yourself, what are the obstacles to get to this goal? So there's 2 questions. What will prevent me from achieving this goal? And how do I work around this? Okay, that's enough of goals. We could do a whole other mind lab on goals, but it's important because our habits, ideally, we build habits to associate with a goal. So back to habits. It's really not the problem if you're having trouble building a new habit. Do not be dismayed. Our brains do not like to do new things, and it likes to be able to predict. It likes to be autonomic or automatic, I'll say that. It loves to build patterns. And so when you're moving from one pattern to another, there is some resistance. So take heart. Again, this is another reason to have a clear goal, because you can remind yourself, I'm doing this because this is where I want to go or be or do, whatever that goal might be. So there is a way to kind of grease the skids to build new habits that are not so resistant. And the answer is to infuse joy. And so, one of my favorite quotes is, sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. And that's from Thich Nhat Hanh. And it's just a reminder that we choose joy, we can also create joy. Okay, it's not something to go strive after. This is something that we can tap into at any time. Sometimes it's easier than others, but this is not, you do not have to go take a class on how to find joy. Just trust that, you could take a minute and look at what are the things that bring you joy. And to be honest, the smaller the better. I have a hummingbird feeder right out my window. It is one of the things that brings me absolute joy when there's a hummingbird out there. I can stop everything and just look at that. Now, for some people, that is totally not important, which is wonderful. We all have different perspectives. Maybe if I have a window out here, I can look outside and see the wind in the trees. That to me brings me joy. The phone ringing does not bring me joy, but we're going to keep going because this is how it works. The birds outside. I love stones. This brings me joy. Getting a phone call from a dear friend brings me joy. Putting my feet on the floor and realizing I'm right here, right now brings me joy. So take a minute. You can pause this. Take a minute and just write down 5 or 10 things that bring you joy. Okay? So pause and then come back. Okay, so do you have your few things you wrote down? You can write down as many as you want that bring you joy. So first off, my encouragement is to have more of that in your life, or pause and, pay attention to those things. We all get 24 hours in the day, and you do get to choose. And this is it creates dopamine in our brain. Our brain works on reward. And so often we associate joy with reaching a goal, which is you start here and the goal's over here. To have joy just here and not along the way, what a bummer. And this is also why often we don't make it from here to here, or the habit just feels like an obligation. And we do not have to do that. Our brains do not like obligation. We get resistance to that. It wants to be rewarded. So reward it along the way. We're leveraging my favorite principle today: use what you've got. And this is what you've got. And it functions in a specific way. And when we work with it, man, it really functions. It's like tuning up your car. Okay? So do not just associate joy with reaching a goal. Associate joy with every step along the way. Please celebrate. Celebrate what you've accomplished, little bits at a time. It took me a long time to realize it builds on itself. Little bit, little bit, little bit. And so for a long time, I went from A to B and I pushed through to get to B. You don't have to. And actually, you're probably going to reach B even faster when you do it this way. So pay attention to the process enjoy the process. I heard a story of a yoga teacher who was teaching a class. This was a long time ago when there were phone books, right? Does everybody know phone books? We used to get these big books that had everybody's phone number in it because we didn't have a 411. We didn't even have 411. You might not even know what 411 is, but that's how we, found people. And this was in New York City. So the phone book was large, hundreds of pages. And there was a student in the class who said, I can't, bending forward, just standing up and bending forward, said, I can't put my hands on the ground. How do I get to where I can put my hands on the ground? And he threw out a phone book and he said, can you put your hands on the phone book? So she was standing like this and she could put her hands on the phone book. And he said, great. Now, each day, tear one page out. And when you've torn all the pages out, you will be able to reach the floor. At the time, I thought that was the stupidest thing I had ever heard. And today, I know it to be true. When we can slow down enough, and I'm not saying we don't get there just as fast, but if we can slow down enough, step back enough to realize everything is a process and everything and pay attention to the in between, man, I'll tell you, it's exactly how our brains want to work, and it actually makes the journey a lot more fun. So, okay, how do we bring joy to our habits? We can do it in a lot of ways. First of all, we can stop taking it all so seriously. I think I've talked about it quite a bit. And really, one of the ways we can do that is instead of always having our eyes on the prize, we've got to get here, 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 here. Pay attention to the progress, celebrate the progress, measure the progress. However, whatever brings you into the process is the best place to be. A little bit about the brain. If we're always rushing over here and everything is urgent, we can come out of our zone of tolerance and we can go into fight or flight, freeze. And actually, physiologically, what's happening is our nervous system takes a different stance when we're urgent and stressed. We take a different stance and it actually shuts down parts of our brain. And these parts make really good decisions. They also allow us to speak, to be able to express ourselves through speech. And then also will shut down our ability to truly hear everything. So more encouragement to come back to the present and enjoy along the way. You'll be more effective all around. Okay. You can go back to the things that bring you joy. It may be songs. It may be music. You can, the beautiful thing is on the internet, we have all the things. You can go listen to any kind of music. You don't have to have some special player or anything like that anymore. I am certainly dating myself. But there's a thing called binaural beats. It's just, there's no words to it. I look up some for focus and concentration, and when I'm doing hard things, I will play that. And it actually keeps me in my seat because when I'm doing a hard thing, sometimes all I want to do, and this is our brain at work, is get up out of my chair. So pair your tasks, pair the habit with something that brings you joy. The other thing you can do besides pairing them together is you can do that habit and then reward yourself. You could do the habit, and then for me, I'm sitting in front of a computer, it's going outside. I have a beautiful garden outside. So I do the thing and then I reward myself. And actually, what starts happening is the way that our brain works. We have there's a cycle, and there's a cue, there's the action, there's the intention, there's the action, and then there's when it's rewarded, that reward gets associated with the cue. It shortens it. And so it says, oh, when I do this, I get rewarded. This is what we're looking for, because now we're telling our brains, when I do this habit, good things are going to happen. And it overrides that idea of our brain saying, wait, I don't know this cycle. This isn't safe, or wait a second, we already have some patterning back here that goes with this, or it's a brand new habit and like, oh no, we don't need to do that. We just stay over here. This is our brain at work. So when you can have a habit with a reward in it that is joyful, you are shortening the time to really build and make it habitual, because there's different stages of habit. So if you think about brushing your teeth, we don't think about it, we just do it, right? It's a habit that has moved into a pattern, and we could call it second nature. This is where, if you have a new habit that's important, that's getting you somewhere, getting you something, health, well-being, learning to play the piano, it doesn't matter what this habit is, when you can truly habituate it, meaning you don't even think about it, it just becomes part of you. You can call it integration. This is where we want to get to with these habits. This is how we shift lifestyle, or shift career, or become masterful at something. And so it's the beginning phase, when these habits aren't habituated, when they're not second nature, that this is where we can fall off the horse, fall off the wagon, have the efforts and say, I'm not going to do this, right? It's too hard. And so this is what we're talking about today, really bringing joy and reward into this habit, even if the reward has nothing to do with the habit. It doesn't matter. This is what I'm saying. I do a hard thing here, I go sit in the garden. They have nothing to do with each other. My brain doesn't care. It puts them together. So I'm going to ask you to pause this again and just sit and think of one habit you have right now that's kind of stop-start. It's tough. You might be questioning if you're going to keep doing this, whatever it is. So I want you to take that habit, look at what it's feeding, meaning what's the goal, and then come up with 3 different ways that you can reward yourself for doing that habit. Either pairing something that brings you joy, and it can be the smallest thing. Our brain doesn't care if it's giant or small, really doesn't. Pair something with it, reward yourself after, Whatever that is, I want you to come up with 3 ideas. So pause this and do that, and then come back. All right, I really hope you took the time to write this out, because I can give you all kinds of information and you can say, "Oh my gosh, that's great," or "I'm not going to do that." However, if something is hitting a nerve with you, if it makes sense to you, if it is useful to you, the knowledge is not going to really benefit you until you implement it in your own life and integrate the knowledge. That's where it becomes wisdom. So, one last call. If you did not pause this, pause it now and practice with one of your habits right now. Okay, awesome. So, again, bring joy, bring more joy to your habits. Like, you do get to choose. And if right now your brain is saying, "Oh my gosh, that's too much work, blah, blah, blah," totally normal. Because again, you're introducing some new idea that it may not have a lot of data to predict on. This is totally normal. This is the beautiful brain that we've been given. So start with one habit. You do not have to go through all your habits and change them all at the same time or infuse joy into all of them. Pick one. This is another thing. Slow and steady wins the race. It really, truly is. It is true. So, joy, again, just a quick review. Joy is not just a reward at the end. It doesn't have to be. Find joy all along the way, and that is conscious attention. So use joy as fuel to help your habits to stick, which means they get habituated, which means they become second nature, which means we've shifted something, something has shifted, or we've mastered something, or there's something great that's coming out of that. If you want support in building joy based habits and routines and goals and habits that drive those goals, for whatever reason, I'm all about for greater impact. Come join me in thriving outside your comfort zone. This is what we do. What we do is actually, it's a program that goes very in depth about how our brain works, why it's tough to live outside our comfort zone. Outside our comfort zone is where growth is, and our brain can fight that quite a bit. So I don't want you to survive outside your comfort zone. I don't want you to push outside your comfort zone. I want you to thrive outside your comfort zone, and that's what we do in the program. So I am here to support you. I'm here to encourage you. I truly, truly hope that you build some joy into your habits and grease the skids to move towards your dreams, your goals, where you're going, new things you're doing, the growth that you're having. If you'd like to know next time the next Mind Lab episode comes out, please subscribe here. And thank you so much.